It was nearly midnight when Ethan Parker was driving home, the rain coming down in heavy sheets. His daughter Mia, 10 years old, slept in the back seat, arms wrapped around her worn stuffed rabbit. Ethan had been at the auto shop late, cleaning, fixing, making sure he could pay the bills on his own. His body ached, his eyes burned, but he kept his foot on the gas. The streets were empty, and the city lights reflected off the wet pavement, turning everything into a blur of orange and gray. As he rounded a corner, he saw her. A woman standing beside a sleek black car, high heels sinking into the wet street, her hands shaking as she tried to fumble with her keys. Rain plastered her hair to her face, and her coat clung to her drenched frame. For a moment, Ethan almost drove past. He was tired. Mia was asleep. The night was long, but then she stumbled, and in that instant a car came screaming around the corner. He didn't think. He slammed on the brakes, threw open the door, and ran into the rain. He grabbed her arm, pulling her back just as the headlights flashed past. She gasped, clinging to him as though he was the only thing keeping her upright. Ethan could feel her trembling through the soaked designer coat she wore. When she looked up, he froze for a second. It was Claudia Rivers. Claudia Rivers, the CEO of one of the biggest tech companies in the country. The woman whose reputation for being icy and untouchable preceded her. She had scolded employees for minor mistakes, walked into boardrooms like she owned the world. And now here she was, soaked, shaking, and terrified. You okay?" Ethan asked, his voice steady even as his heart raced. Claudia's lips trembled, and she muttered something incoherent about calling a car service. Ethan helped her into the passenger seat of his old sedan, draping his raincoat over her shoulders. Mia stirred in the back and rubbed her eyes. "Dad, who's that lady?" she asked softly, her voice thick with sleep. Ethan smiled faintly. "Someone who needs a little help tonight, buddy." He drove the rest of the way in silence. The rain hammered against the roof, the windshield wipers struggling to keep up. When they arrived at Claudia's house, a large modern home on the edge of town, Ethan helped her out of the car. She could barely stand on her own. He guided her carefully up the marble steps, and she sank onto the couch, exhausted. He checked that she had a blanket, some water, and quietly left, making sure she was safe before returning to his car. The next morning, Ethan didn't expect anything to come of last night. But to his surprise, Claudia showed up at his small auto shop. She was composed, calm, and collected, but there was something softer in her eyes, a vulnerability he had never seen before. "I wanted to thank you," she said quietly, almost hesitantly, "for last night. You didn't have to stop, but you did, and I needed it more than I realized." Ethan shrugged, embarrassed. "It was nothing, just doing what anyone would do." "No," she said, shaking her head. "Not anyone. Most people would have driven past." Over the next few weeks, Claudia began visiting the shop more often, not as a CEO with an entourage or agenda, but as herself, a woman learning to feel again. She talked to Ethan about her life, listened to Mia chatter endlessly about school, friends, and superheroes, and even got her hands dirty cleaning tools or helping with small repairs. The transformation in her was quiet but real. One afternoon, while wiping grease off a wrench, Claudia finally opened up. "Ethan, that night I wasn't just drunk. I had been drinking to forget something. I lost my brother a few weeks ago. We had a fight before he died, and I never said goodbye. I just wanted to numb it, I guess. You didn't just pull me off the street. You pulled me out of a dark place I thought I'd never escape." Ethan's throat tightened, and for a moment words failed him. "You're stronger than you think," he said finally. "No," she said, looking down. "I just met someone who reminded me what strength looks like." Mia, listening quietly, piped up, "Miss Claudia, you're brave too." Her words were simple, but they made both adults smile. Claudia bent down, tucking a wet strand of hair behind her ear. "Thank you, sweetie," she said softly. "I'm learning every day. Inspired by Ethan's kindness, Claudia launched a foundation aimed at supporting single parents and their children. She credited a man she barely knew, a man who had shown her that small acts of kindness could mean more than wealth or power. The foundation, Heartwell Initiative, quickly became her passion, and the connection between Ethan, Mia, and Claudia grew. Sometimes they would sit together after work, sharing simple dinners at the garage. Mia would chatter endlessly about her day at school, drawing little doodles of cars and robots on scrap paper. Claudia would laugh, really laugh, and Ethan would notice how her shoulders relaxed, how the tension he had seen in her for years slowly eased. Then, an opportunity came. Ethan received a job offer in another city. Better pay, better hours, a chance at a more stable life for Mia. It was everything he had prayed for, but it also meant leaving behind the bond he had formed with Claudia. He wrestled with the decision for days, feeling the pull of responsibility against the pull of the heart. The night before he was set to leave, Claudia came to the shop one last time. The setting sun painted the garage in warm amber light, and for the first time, neither of them spoke of work, schedules, or charity. They just stood in silence, the hum of the city outside muted by the garage walls. "You're leaving," she said softly. "For Mia," Ethan replied. "She deserves a better life." "You already gave her one," Claudia said, stepping closer. "You gave me one too." He wanted to say so much, to tell her how she had changed his life just as he had changed hers, but the words stuck in his throat. Instead, he nodded and said, "Take care of yourself, Claudia." The next morning, Ethan and Mia drove away, the weight of everything pressing down on him. Mia waved from the back seat, and Claudia stood in the doorway holding the umbrella Ethan had used to save her that rainy night. She didn't move until their car disappeared from sight. Months passed. Life settled into a new rhythm. Then a letter arrived. Inside was a photo of Claudia standing with a group of employees beneath a new sign. The Parker Initiative. She had dedicated a program to single parents in Ethan's name. The note in her careful handwriting read, "You didn't just save me that night. You reminded me what it means to live, to care, and to act with kindness when no one is watching. Thank you." Ethan held the letter for a long time, looking at the photo, thinking about the night that had started it all. He placed it beside Mia's drawings on the fridge, her small sketches of the garage they had left behind. One drawing in particular caught his eye. Words scrawled by a child. "Second chances start here." He smiled, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the sun or the lights outside. Sometimes he realized life doesn't need grand gestures. Sometimes it only takes a quiet act of kindness on a rainy night to change everything. For one person, or for many. There were moments he still remembered. The look on Claudia's face when he pulled her out of the street. The way Mia's small hand had squeezed his as they drove home. The laughter they had shared in the garage as grease smeared across their hands. Life wasn't perfect. It was long, hard, and messy. But it was also full of people who mattered. Moments that mattered. And kindness that rippled far beyond what anyone could see. And as he looked at Mia asleep that night, curled up with her rabbit, Ethan knew that despite the long hours, the tired body, and the uncertainty of life ahead, he had done something that mattered. He had saved someone. Not for recognition, not for reward, but because it was the right thing to do. Sometimes, that's all it takes.